Hello, 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 hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday in it. It's Tuesday in it. Tuesday in it. And we are back Tuesday night. And it's been a mixed kind of day. Mixed kind of day. If we're talking about Manchester United, some a little good, some little good news, some little bad news, and little gives and little takes, whatever you want to call it, basically. And we're gonna address some of that little bit of good and a little bit of bad. So let's get. I believe in ending shows off on positives, right? On the highs instead of the lows. So we'll start with the bads. The bads and the bad thing in my case, in Manchester United's case, I should say, but in my case as well, is Anthony Martial. Anthony Martial. We're going to be talking about the prospects of him staying between now and the summer, staying at the club and basically just collecting more paychecks for doing absolutely nothing. Also be covering Jadon Sancho and the potential to him completing his move to Dortmund tomorrow. That's that's where a lot of the journos are crossing. That's the date. A lot of the journos are crossing. We'll also be having a little segment about current key players in the squad, or key players to some fans, and a couple of names there that perhaps we should indulge potentially in selling in order to actually kickstart a new face, Manchester United, as perhaps part of a way to completely 2 foot challenge this old culture in the face and then replace it with a fresh one, replace it with with a new story. Um, and then also we'll be addressing a little attendee for the Tottenham game on the Sunday and perhaps the implications of that. So, a few things for us to discuss tonight. So, well, let's not waste any more time um, and jump into things. Make sure that you are liking the stream as you come in and all of that good stuff. And also make sure you are subscribing, scribbing. Get on the scribbing, people. Get us up to 150 ASAP and all of that good stuff. And if we can do so, then thank you very much to those who will have subscribed. So all of that good stuff. I'm set for this evening, and I've got myself set up. Cheers, people. Cheers, and most importantly, cheers to Big T as well. Guess who? Well, start as you mean to go on. Big T getting the ball rolling on the like. So big ups to that man right there. Get him a beer. Get this man a beer. And all of that good stuff. But let's start. Anthony Martial. So supposedly there are contrast of reports between Martial staying and Martial going. So we've got on one side of the coin the Martial outers, basically, can't remember which journalist it was or a group of journalists that were saying that Fenerbahce are almost desperate to get a deal with Anthony Martial wrapped up ASAP to take him out to the Turkish side. Um, Perhaps a little bit of a transfer fee, though it's going to be next to nothing if that is to go through. Kind of expected if it is a 6 month remainder on the contract. It's one of those. Some people pre-negotiate for the player to join in the summer upon contract expiration. Some others will want to get him playing for the the remainder of this season, so they'll add a little bit of a transfer fee onto that um, to pay it off. Um, and there is the conflicting report from Talksport, or in many people's cases, Talk Shite. There's not really a lot of sound opinions that go around on that show, but opinions are opinions. Like arseholes, as some people suggest. Everyone's got one, but not everybody wants to see them. So, kind of like opinions, not everybody wants to hear them, but everyone's got a right to express it. Unlike flashing, flashing that, we don't do that around these parts here. So, but Martial, supposedly from Talksport, saying he could end up staying between now and the summer, and I'm in the camp where I'm so very desperate to get everybody out of this club. I'm just so desperate to just gut everything out, just uproot everything, throw everybody through the window, preferably from the third floor, but just throw them out. Like there's too many players here that I cannot wait to see the back of leaving and walking out the door. I cannot wait. Been too long that we've had players that are being paid way more than what they are worth as players, and essentially not living up to even the basic standards of a Premier League football club, let alone Manchester United Football Club, because we're meant to be at the pinnacle. But we've got players, we've got staff, we've got a lot of different elements about this club that act as though we are not. And it contributes wholesalely to a lowering of club standards, and it damages the club, um, and most notably the reputation of the club. So you know it's an issue, big, massive issue that's got to be tackled quickly, and hopefully with the introduction of Ineos, that we do see an interjection of personalities, but also a work ethic that promotes and champions excellency, not just on the pitch but also off it. And whether Ineos will do just that, we have to wait and see. But I want to say that we should be able to back Ineos to getting these changes made, um, to get us basically into a new era, just new lease of life. Going on Ten Hag's recent comments, do you think we have the players who have it in their contract that if they're fit to play? Um, do you think we have players who have it in their contracts that if they are fit, they play? Players contracted to positions. I know that player contracts in the modern game have a huge amount of clauses, right? Like I feel like it's not just where, for example, back in the old days, you sign a striker and it's just a simple clause: score X amount of goals in one season, and you'll see a bonus. Now I feel like there's a lot of demand from player and agents, so that there are tons and tons and tons of minuscule contract clauses, many of which that I don't think really sort of make it to see the light of day. I think there's a lot of I'd say cheeky bits of business wrapped in a lot of our players and Premier League players right the way throughout the league. But maybe most notably at Manchester United, because given the circumstances that we are that useless at contract negotiations, maybe there are a lot of players, and especially those that have undergone renewals, and that's probably the one you've got to be most wary of. The players that have undergone contract renewals are probably amongst the bunch that may have furtherments to install clauses into contracts that are just completely out of whack, and something that usually a football player should never really have to have in a contract, or should never want to have in a contract. As to whether there's a contract clause that states that a player, if they are fit, that they just play irrespective of anything else, regardless of form, ability, or anything like that. Maybe Scott McTominay has that kind of a clause in his contracts, and it just constantly keeps getting renewed and renewed and renewed, and it becomes a protected asset of the club. And maybe that's a bit of a sinister aspect of contract renewals at Manchester United, is that maybe there are assets that the Glazer family, or Joel Glazer specifically, sees as a valuable asset and should be protected, and that maybe that there is almost a biasery in negotiations for those renewals, that maybe players like a Scott McTominay can get these kind of clauses where they just get to play, even though there's players way better than them at the club. They get the game time because it's in the clause or something like that. The crazy thing is, I don't want to believe that to be true, but you never really truly know. Away the lads, away to Geordie. Big ups to you, man. Hope you're doing well. Great win yesterday. If you watched my match reaction, it was anything but anything but a great win. It was a must win. Absolutely, is a must win, because Ten Hag's job depends on it. It absolutely depends on it. If we lose to Eastleigh, he's gone. He's sacked. Absolutely sacked. Because by the time that we play Eastleigh, the ratification period should have been completed. So Sergei Brailsford, Jean-Claude Blanc, all of those guys, they are in power by the time we get there. Because I think it was just before the January transfer window, a couple of days to a week before, was when the announcement happened. And usually ratification takes about 6 to 8 weeks, but they were hoping to get it done within 4 to 6 weeks. So it might be around that sort of point that ratification might be done. So, it could be interesting. Could be interesting scenarios. And if we get knocked out the FA Cup early, that's disaster settings for the manager. It was talking about why Donny never had the opportunity to play. Ten Hag said there are agreements with players, and players contracted to positions. It's like you can't play Donny; they have to. I mean, if that's based around what the comments to which Ten Hag has said, the thing is that Donny van de Beek, and it wouldn't really make any sense that that a club would negotiate clauses into a contract that are position specific. Like, that's a bit baffling to me. That would be really, really odd. Really, really odd. Like, that to me wouldn't really make much sense at all from a business perspective, but also from the sporting side as well. Like, I wouldn't know how anything like that would be structured, or how that would be, say, plotted to either player, manager, or club. That with specific positions that he is only allowed to play in this position. End of story. I think with the way modern managers like to go, I mean, say for example, if Mikel Arteta at Arsenal had player contracts that had clauses that were positionally vindicated, or players had position allocations in their contracts, or they've got a binding to a position via their contract, that Mikel Arteta would be throwing in the towel. He'd be like, well, screw this, can't have this. I mean, how else will I play Thomas Partey at right back? I mean, how can I possibly do that? I mean, it's like modern day managers, they like to, put players out of position, if you will, and try the new meta, in football. Try different things and put a player that usually just wouldn't ever be qualified by logical reasoning into a position that doesn't really suit them. But it's like, well, I dreamed a dream. It's like Martin Luther King or something. I dreamed a dream where Marcus Rashford can play in goal and Andre Onana is a better striker than Cristiano Ronaldo ever was. It's like things like that. Fuzzmeister, Mama Flossie Meister, big ups to you. Hope you're doing well. Big ups to the chat as well, absolutely. Big ups to all the regulars in the chat and all of you good people. It also says to potential incoming players, don't join us, you won't play. And this is why Ineos's interjection is absolutely mission critical. Absolutely mission critical. Because they will hold the power to completely rejig the whole system from start to finish. And there was a picture that I'd seen on the timeline, on the X timeline, the Twitter timeline, that shows Sir Dave Brailsford, Jean-Claude Blanc, David Gill sat in the DW Stadium. You've got John Murtagh sat a row behind them. And I'm just like, man, that guy, once they get to look in the fine details of how the club operates, oh my God, that guy's going to be gone quicker than anybody else that you've ever seen getting booted out of any establishment. Like, it would be crazy. Because if half of this stuff is even meant to be believed, half of this stuff wouldn't even happen at most of these other clubs. Half of it, not even half of it. And all of it seems to be going on at Manchester United. And I think people with common sense, just take someone to walk in the door with common sense, half a brain cell, take one look at the whole grand scheme of things and go, well, that's clapped, isn't it? Right, let's chuck that. Let's chuck Bessie out, and let's bring the new shiny new toy in. Makes sense why Binder does not play. You can't see. You can't. Nana has that position contracted. It's part of the fee. It's part of the agent fee. The agent fee is not to pay the agent well. It's just to reserve the position. You bought the position. It's now trademarked. It's like you trademarked the goalkeeping position. I mean, can you imagine that? Trademarking a goalkeeper's position and signing a player that can never ever be dropped, no matter how hard you try, can never ever be dropped. But speaking of dropping, Jadon Sancho might very well be getting dropped into Dortmund's camp tomorrow. As soon as tomorrow, word has it, word on the street, that Jadon Sancho will be joining or completing his move tomorrow, because practically everything, I think it was Pletty said this, that everything is essentially done and dusted deal-wise, that they've established the balance of payments and the structure of the deal. They're all happy to go with that. It's just a case of the last green light being given, and then everything's all wrapped up. So Jadon Sancho might be a Dortmund player come tomorrow morning. And hopefully that's the case, because the sooner we can get this off of our agenda list, then we can start to focus on the more important things, and that is offloading other players such as your Anthony Martials and getting someone in to give us better depth. Give us some depth. Give us a little bit of something. And I just think it's a necessity that we look to. Well, for me, it's a necessity to upheaval a piss poor club culture. So for me, as I've already said once this stream, I can't wait to see 90% of the squad just get booted out, dropped on their head, tombstoned, and then speared through a glass panel. Or I should say, suplex through a glass panel like Prime Kurt Angle on Shane McMahon. I'd like to see this club hit the big reset button, and it can't come soon enough. And supposedly, we've heard other things as well, talking about Cedric Ratcliffe going to put his own cash into the club, like personal cash into the club. We don't know what's going to happen. It's just a case of getting into the door at first glance for guys like Ineos and Cedric Ratcliffe. The thing is that we don't know now, but maybe Cedric Ratcliffe turns around and goes, actually, I'd like to commit some of my funds into the war chest, into a war chest for Manchester United, and to aid the financing of a strong summer transfer window. And that could happen. It's just a case that we have to see what transpires between now and the summer. Hopefully, it's a very proactive and hands-on approach that he takes into getting Manchester United in really, really stuck into the transfer window. But maybe it might be that he's ready to line the pockets of the best in class staffing at Manchester United, because we've heard already that Dan Ashworth is going to be a bit of a tall order to convince him to come to Manchester United, to convince him to leave Newcastle United, as he is greatly admired. But maybe Cedric Ratcliffe is just like, well, listen, let me put money towards that. Let me put money towards building the staff structure at Manchester United. Leave all the club funds to transfer business on the player front. I will pay for the staff. Me and Ineos, we will pay for the staff. We will pay for a new board, a new structure, just a brand new face and a brand new start for most levels at Manchester United. So we'll have to see. I'm hoping that it is not a case of it to be too. It's not a case of it being too good to be true. I'm hoping that it is something that we can see happening in motion, and us to actually feel a bit of excitement for it. Because at the end of the day, us as Manchester United fans, we want entertainment, but we also want belief and hope. And I believe we can do that. We can do that. We can absolutely do that. Pulse Play, big ups to you, man. Good to see you. Rushford body language, Trashford body language is worrying. He seems don't care about shit. Yeah, when I see Onana, feel like he is the worst signing under Ten Hag. Even I'm African, everyone knows you can't sing a goalkeeper from here. I mean, Andre Onana, to me, it's like the goalkeeping situation is a bit of a precarious one. Because it's like the talk of David De Gea and transitioning to the next big number one goalkeeper for Manchester United. And it's like, do you prolong the backing of a goalkeeper that's confidence is on the floor, but he's desperate to do well in Onana, or do you try to take him out the limelight, put the second choice in there, play him, see how well he does? But at the end of the day, you're still not really, establishing a new number one for the club. You need to start thinking about, well, who is going to be the out and out first team goalkeeper for Manchester United that ultimately takes over from David De Gea, from the established goalkeeping position. And I think Andre Onana, by the looks of it, was just a bet. I say a bet. Well, yeah, a bet. Chancing it. Just absolutely chancing that he can bring... he can be a pivotal part in playing a different style of play, but as we've seen with Ten Hag, he's not really opting to play a modern style. And I think it's just another case of familiarity. I think Ten Hag, he wants a goalkeeper that he knows very well, that he believes would have the level. He said, "Oh, look, Andre Onana at Inter Milan." By no means is Onana that bad of a goalkeeper. I just think his confidence is absolutely on the floor. And the worst thing you should really do is just to completely persist blindless, like aimlessly, with one single goalkeeper, never to be dropped, never to be rotated, never anything whatsoever. And it can ultimately do more damage in the long run than it can provide positives. As for Rashford, I mean, we've got a segment I'm about to come into now about some of the key big name players that we should sell, that we can sell, that getting rid of them is to lay the foundations or to lay a marker for a new era at Manchester United. And I think probably the pillars of what makes up the club's dressing room at the moment, or what makes up the club's culture at the moment, that perhaps you do need to remove some of those pillars, even though a lot of pro Manx or pro Uniteds or top Reds would talk about, or how they would talk about players like a Rashford, because I know some people like to sing the praises of academy products such as Marcus Rashford, that we'd sit here and say, well, he's exempt from all criticism because he came through um, the academy. Oh, let's back him, even though he's done absolutely nothing for us in recent times. But like um, barring just taking our top goal scorer for last season, he's not really driven this club to actually winning trophies. I mean, barring scoring in, I think it was the second goal in the Carabao Cup final, he hasn't really furthered that contribution at any stage. And that's got to be a big concern, a really, really big concern. And his body language, most especially, but to me, the body language of quite a few players at Manchester United is, much, much less than desirable. So for me, yeah, we'll jump into the segment in just a bit. I'll quickly go through these comments here. It's do or die for the new team of directors and executives. If they can't fix us, nobody can. And I think the dangerous thing with this, I find, Big T, is that if we are too quick, I think there's going to be an air of, I'd say, impatience or desperation, that we might see some good stuff, but the good stuff just doesn't come along soon enough, or it doesn't come along quick enough for our satisfaction. And we'll sit here saying, "Oh, we're still a little bit short in this position at this time of the season. Oh, we should have done this and that as well." And it's just like, I think that there could be elements of this. For me, it's just give a couple of seasons to really get this board bedded in and to really work into establishing which avenue it is they're taking, or rather let the picture define itself. But put your trust and faith into the new board, and we'll see how it is that they do. But I think it's justified as well that us as fans should be able to demand to this board and make our messages loud and clear what we want to see, and demand, don't demand mediocrity, demand excellency. Because at the end of the day, football should be the case of supply and demand for football clubs and their supporters. If you don't demand something, how can you ever expect to be supplied with something? Because if no one demands for the success of Manchester United, technically speaking, if you're the person in charge of Manchester United, you don't feel incentivized that you have to do it. You don't feel that incentive. You think, well, that's all right. They're not going to be too mad if we don't win a title this year. It might be all right. Might be okay with just taking a year off. I think Højlund would save more goals than Onana, and Onana would score more goals than Højlund. Maybe role switches in order. Maybe like a bit like pro clubs. Maybe that's what they do. Maybe they're actually playing like pro clubs teammates or something. They play for the same club on EAFC 24, and they literally play in opposite positions. And Onana's just busy smashing in hat tricks every single game in Division One. Meanwhile, Højlund is just busy getting clean sheets all the time because he's just flawless at controlling a goalkeeper. Like, he beats the script. Pulse Play says, do you really think we can sign any player in January transfer window? I think United will do a mad thing. We'll get Weghorst type player. Well, in terms of transfer fees, I don't think anything with a transfer fee is possible. I think it's all going to be primarily loan deals that we'll be opting to do at the moment. I think all of the transfer business, like the signings with transfer fees and stuff, that's all summer talk. If we do actually pull off like an actual transfer signing that isn't a loan deal in the January transfer window, and it be an interesting player that we don't expect, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it's an interesting player we don't expect for all the good reasons, all the right reasons, then I'll be surprised. I would be surprised. But the problem is that whilst this ratification period is going on, this board is still completely and utterly operated from start to finish by John Murtough and the Glazers. That is the reality here. We've still got the Rot doing the business for this January transfer window. So I've not got much hope. I've not got much faith at all. So yeah, that's the glaring issue for January. But I believe that we could still see, the biggest changes, I'm sure, will come after the January transfer window is done. Big ups, Hotfuzz 44, smashing a like, good stream last night. Big ups to Early Doors as well, man. Yeah, it was. I think it's one of those where you would have imagined that if we'd won a game of football last night, that I'd be a bit more cheery, a bit more jovial. And it's like, I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't good last night whatsoever. It's like with Arsenal, they could do all of the work with building up, but then you get in front of goal and it's absolutely atrocious. And it doesn't cap off a good team performance at the end of the day. If you've had that many chances, or you've kicked the ball at their goal 33 plus times, and you've only scored 2 goals, and the team you played against was a League One team that's struggling in 18th, it doesn't read for good showing. Big ups to Big TM and Flossie, 100%. And big ups to Pulse Player as well. They have got 2 transfer windows before next season. I want us competing around the top next season. I want us winning it the season after at the latest. I mean, that would probably be along the lines of best case scenario, that we be competing, all season long at least for next season, and then going on to win the Premier League the season after. There's an extraordinary amount of work to be done to get there. It's very unlikely, but it is not impossible. It is not impossible. It absolutely isn't impossible. We've seen teams go and do madness. I mean, Girona in Spain, promoted season before last. 10th place finish in La Liga last season, sat top end of the table this season. And you think about how the funds get distributed in Spain. They've got some good players, absolutely. Look at the way that they're approaching the challenge. They're just taking the fight. They're just taking the fight to teams, and they're just doing it their way. Kind of how Ten Hag should have done done it with his management approach with Manchester United. Just do it your way. Do it your way. Don't bend your will or bend your knee to player power and play the ways that they want you to play. Play your way, so we can see that the players are even more of a problem than the way in which you've gone right now. So, but I think it is well within fans' rights to demand success. I mean, take for example, next season we might not be competing for no Premier Leagues, but I want to see us bloody have a good go at some of these cup competitions. If we get into Europe, if we get into Conference League, it doesn't matter what kind of stage of rebuild we're in. We're winning Conference League. End of story. You're winning that as a minimum. Whoever's in charge, you can win that tournament as a minimum. Europa League, we can challenge for it, absolutely. But bloody hell, I mean, we have to get into a good position by the end of this season in order to do that. But maybe challenge for a Carabao Cup, maybe go after the FA Cup next season or something like that. Chase down the trophies. They're there to be won. Everybody starts from the same position in a knockout competition format. It's some people claim it to be luck of the draw. Okay, well, I'm feeling lucky. How about you? I'm feeling very lucky. Let's go do it. If you can get a squad of players playing as a team, the rest takes care of itself. And I think with the quality as well, if you get players with quality that start to play as a good unit, as a good team, and you've got good squad players that are effective from the bench, but everybody just gives everything that they've got, then I absolutely believe that we can do some really good things. And starting from next season, I think there is a big invitation in order to actually do that. So hopefully we can do that. And speaking of the segment, key players perhaps that we should maybe consider selling in order to actually get into building that team, that a team of players that play for each other. Maybe guys like Marcus Rashford we need to sell. Guys like Bruno Fernandes we need to sell. Who else? I mean, Antony, as far as quality is concerned, isn't really hitting it. I said across the summer, last season was an introductory season. This season he's got to really hit the ground running. Unfortunately, he didn't hit the ground running. He hit the ground face planting into concrete, pure concrete. And to me, it's not the right level. It's not the right level, and we need to go and improve that. We need to be better. Be better and do better. So for me, Antony needs to go as well. So who else? Who else needs to go? I mean, Eriksen, not really going to do much more than what he's contributing right now, although I think he can do some good things from time to time. Maybe some good energy, some fresh legs, younger legs, an age profile like a Kobbie Mainoo or just slightly older. I don't think Mason Mount's going to do anything special. If it was up to me, I would sell Mason Mount. It was a transfer that didn't make any sense to me to begin with. I didn't want him, and I just think even now he's still not offered anything whatsoever. The only thing he's really offered us is just further medical examinations or just practice for our club doctors to get better at their jobs. But even then, they're not that good. So the problem is we don't know Sir Jim trusting Ten Hag for a long project, and if we change manager, we need about 7 players clear out for a new manager. We do need some big changes. I think the biggest problem that this board, that Ineos can possibly do, is to say to this group of players, we're going to change the manager, and we want to see what you can do. Because the thing is that about this squad, they are a bunch of snakes. They're absolutely a bunch of snakes. Literally, they'll turn it on. They'll start doing, oh, look at us. Look at us. We're playing out of our skins. Purple patch form. You're scoring goals, and some good moments of play on the pitch. And then when times get tough, we'll try and pull the plug on the manager again, and try and establish once again that we own and we run the club as players. And it would be, again, enabling player power. It would be enabling players to get away with being mediocre. But then if they give a little bit extra, that everything will be forgiven. And then we just end up subliminally sitting back in square one again. And we can't afford to do that. It's cost us 10 years because we do a cycle, but the assumption is that the cycle stays in the same place, but we just keep going on around the cycle. That it's that's sustainable, that's prolonged. But actually what happens is this circle that we keep doing circuits around is just sinking further and further down. So we're actually doing the same process over and over again, but the actual grand scheme, the wider picture, is getting more and more ugly. We're sinking by doing the same thing over and over and over again gradually as we go along. And it's a different kind of rot that is is more to it than meets the eye, I guess. Sacking Ten Hag now makes the dressing room unknown to incoming players and could put them off joining. I think he's sacked when transfer window closes. They and that, you know what? That's the thing. Ten Hag has said, he has said that that there's going to be a project, that there's a process here. Roy Keane said that if that's going to be the comment made by the manager, that usually means they're going to be gone in a couple of months or something like that. And to be honest, I think that kind of comment from Ten Hag is it's like it's a little bit of I'd say suppression to what the reality of the situation is. I think he's just like, I've been told that my time is limited if I don't pull something really special out of the hat. So I'm just going to say to the fans and to the media that everything's going well. The talks have been magnificent. They've been magic. And we're going to go on to do some special things. Just back me for this process. Trust my process. We've watched Arsenal fans put faith into a process that's won them approximately 0 trophies. So I'm not really quite in the camp of trusting a process in the current circumstance of things, to be completely honest. So I think take your process and shove it. What I want is a club's endeavour and ambition to state that the task at hand is to be based around winning trophies. And if we are not winning trophies, we are not doing something right. End of discussion. I don't want to see no trophy droughts anymore. I don't want to see any top fours or trophy talk. I don't want to see anything where it's like, as long as we can get European qualification, we're all A-okay. I don't want to see that. I want to see us talk the language of trophies. I want to see us talk the language of champions. I want us to basically say Manchester, or basically what I want to happen is Manchester City go look over their shoulder at the Red Side of Manchester and go, hey, look, the noisy neighbours have come back to, and we come sit, before they can finish their sentence, we'll just bitch slap them across the face like, nah, you're the noisy neighbours. You stay the noisy neighbours. We christened you with that name. Now sit down, swivel on it. We're back on top. That's what I'd like us to go and do. That's ideally the core end goal here. That's what I want us to do. Because Manchester City are the measuring stick. I want Manchester United to snap that bitch measuring stick in half. And shove him in Pep Guardiola's eye sockets. That's what I want us to go do. Maybe a little less violent, but you get the gist of it. Also, they're waiting for ratification. If Ineos sacked Eric now, and then the Premier League said no, you can't take over, it would make out the club look more stupid than it already does. Well, that's the thing, is a lot of people have already blamed Ineos for quite a few things. Like, I've seen Ineos's name get tied to a lot of actions that are going on at Manchester United, and it's just like, but they're not in charge yet. Sir Dave Brailsford and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are not allowed to make changes. They're not allowed to sign off for anything until the period of ratification is done. So it's very clearly not an Ineos problem that's going on at the moment. It's still working with the crappy board of old, just waiting for the ratification to be completed. But we have to see. We'll have to see what happens once that ratification period is completed and the Premier League have signed them in and said, yeah, welcome to the Premier League. Who knows? They might pull the plug almost instantly, just say, right, now we drain everything out. And maybe we're shocked by how significant the changes are. Maybe we are shocked. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens in those instances. But speaking of Sir Jim Ratcliffe as well, in terms of ratification period, even though he's not really completed his ratification period, still allows him to actually go and watch the club he's about to be in charge of. That he's about to hold a stake shareholder in terms of ownership. He's going to be present at Old Trafford on Sunday when we play Tottenham Hotspur. He's going to be in the Sir Bobby Charlton stand, I would assume, most likely sat alongside the likes of Sir Dave Brailsford, most likely sat alongside the likes of Jean-Claude Blanc, most likely sat right next to the guy that he's about to sack in John Murtagh. Like, there is a lot of implications about what could entail following that, because if Manchester United, lose to Tottenham Hotspur in an embarrassing fashion, Ten Hag, and this is the thing, Ten Hag would have done that in front of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Dave Brailsford, Jean-Claude Blanc, three of the most powerful people that are about to determine the manager's fate. And they, if it is an embarrassing loss, they would have just watched 90 minutes of that. So you can imagine that they've got to think about making all sorts of wholesale changes. They might think, right, this guy no, sorry, we can't tolerate that. We can't tolerate Tottenham Hotspur rocking up to Old Trafford and smashing them off the park. We can't tolerate that. We're gonna have to get rid of him. And this is the thing. As far as transfer money goes, perhaps Ineos are aiming it to be completely club generated transfer funds. Perhaps that's going to be the case. Maybe Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to put his money in to deal with signing or hiring guys like Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell to the club, or Ralph Rangnick, or whoever else might be introduced as along the Manchester United board. Or it could be his own money is used as part of the managerial recruitment, because they'll have sacked Erik Ten Hag, and then Sergeant Ratcliffe also pays for the replacement. Just a quick heads up, by the way. Carrick's just scored against Chelsea. Middlesbrough are beating Chelsea 1-0. Carricky balls in full swing, guys. Carricky balls in full swing. But Jesus, Middlesbrough 1, Chelsea 0 in the EFL Cup semi-finals. Can you imagine that? Michael Carrick getting to the Carabao Cup final. That's madness. Absolute madness. Do you know what would be an absolute banger? Middlesbrough versus Fulham, Carabao Cup final. Please, Fulham, beat Liverpool, please. Keep an eye out for Potter at the stadium in a disguise. Sat behind Ten Hag, he's just like, I'm going to slap this baked bean head. This baked bean head's slapper. Absolute slapper. I can imagine. Might end up being the case, but we'll have to wait to see, just to see what comes out of the other end of all of this fiasco, if you will. But that's pretty much drawn the show to a close. Big ups to everybody who has tuned in. Big thank yous to everybody that has joined me this evening and dropped your comments in the chat. If you've got any thoughts and feelings about what has been discussed in this show tonight, do be sure to drop those thoughts and those feelings in the comments section down below. On top of that, make sure that whilst you are doing so, you're smashing that like and subscribing if you haven't done so already, of course. If you have subscribed already, unsub and then subscribe again, just so that you complete the action of which I have I plead to you to do. But no, if you can't be bothered to do that, then please don't. But I'm going to let everybody go. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday nights, and hopefully we are watching a Michael Carrick masterclass that I believe is the Riverside Stadium, which I think is what Middlesbrough's ground is. Is that right? Is that the Riverside? Yes, it is. The Riverside Stadium. Go and enjoy your Tuesday nights. Get that Discord sorted. I do need to do so. I do need to get a Discord sorted. Do something. I do need to do something there. But of course, until let's see if there's anything else at all. No. Nothing else to cover there. But anyways, that's it from me for tonight. There was going to be a show tomorrow night, a Wolfgang Divisions channel. That is now changed to Thursday night at 10 p.m. I'll be on Wolfgang Divisions channel. I'll also be featuring on there with Arsenal History More, or in other names, Jez, as well as Kenny Ken, supposedly. If all goes swimmingly according to plan, then you shall be seeing a pretty stacked panel on that show. But that is Thursday night, 10 p.m. Friday night is the Tottenham match preview, and we will be having the guest, the chicken on a basketball guest in Kudos, featuring on the channel for the first time. And will be giving his verdict on the Tottenham Hotspur agenda going into the Sundays and all of that good stuff. So do be sure to keep your eyes peeled for that show. I believe it's going to be a 9 p.m. Show, that one, for the match preview for Tottenham Hotspur and all of that good stuff. As for other shows that go on, we'll have to see what happens. I might get an invitation to some other shows, so do keep your eyes peeled for those things, all that good stuff. And if you do want to know when we do next go live or do upload a video, make sure that notification bell is switched on, so that when I do stream or I do upload, I do make sure that I ring your bell. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me tonight. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Speak to you all later. Take care.